Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. These are the headlines this morning.
We did what we came here to do, and so much more.
Donald Trump's turbulent 4 years as US president draw to a close.
To heal, we must remember. It's hard sometimes to remember, but that's how we heal. It's important to do that as a nation.
His successor, Joe Biden, speaks of the need to heal the nation as he prepares to be sworn in.
The former Prime Minister Theresa May has accused Boris Johnson of abandoning Britain's position of global moral leadership.
A volatile situation. Flood warnings rise as Storm Christoph gives parts of the UK an overnight drenching.
And there could be another 18 hours worth of rain to fall in some areas. River levels will continue to rise after that. Add on to that, we've got also the problem with snow heading our way to eastern parts of Scotland. I'll have all the details.
Good morning. Could forgotten freelancers finally be brought into government support schemes? COVID emergency measures face heavy criticism. The tax office is told you have 6 weeks to change.
Good morning, it's Wednesday, it's the 20th of January, and after a controversial 4 years, Donald Trump's presidency comes to an end later today with the inauguration of that man there, the 46th president, Joe Biden.
On the eve of his inauguration, Mr Biden spoke of the need for the nation to heal as he led a memorial ceremony, paying tribute to the 400,000 Americans who've died with COVID-19. Here's our Washington correspondent, Nomia Iqbal.
Church bells rang out from the National Cathedral to remember the victims of COVID-19. The reflecting pool at the National Mall was lit up for the 400,000 people who have lost their lives. Democrats held a memorial at Capitol Hill, where the inauguration ceremony will take place later. The victims were honoured across the country and by the incoming leadership of America.
Between sundown and dusk, let us shine the lights in the darkness along the sacred pool of reflection. Remember all whom we lost.
Tonight, we grieve and begin healing together. Though we may be physically separated, we, the American people, are united in spirit.
Then, a touching tribute from a nurse who works on the front line.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
At exactly 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Donald Trump will become a civilian and Joe Biden the president. But this is an inauguration like no other. There won't be crowds watching because of the pandemic, and the large military presence here means that things are even more restricted.
Among the crowds will be representatives from many different countries, including the UK.
I think this is going to be a very warm relationship. It is built on a very solid bedrock of all the things that make the relationship important and special: deep, profound, successful cooperation on defence, security, intelligence, and increasingly on the economy, on science, and on prosperity.
President Trump won't be there, though, but had this to say to his successors.
We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word.
It wasn't entirely a goodbye.
I want you to know that the movement we started is only just beginning. There's never been anything like it.
Under the Constitution, Mr. Trump can run for office again, but he's facing another impeachment trial, and he's also losing the support of some top Republicans following the deadly riots on Capitol Hill.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like.
America under President Trump has been stormy and spellbinding. 4 years on, Joe Biden hopes under him, this country can be calm and still. Nomia Iqbal, BBC News, Washington.
Well, Nomia is in Washington for us this morning ahead of that inauguration ceremony. And Nomia, we can see behind you some of that security cordon. We've been hearing a lot about that in the last 24 hours or so. Just run us through exactly what will be happening today.
Yes, security is tight. It always is ahead of any inauguration, and there are up to 23,000 troops from the National Guard here to make sure that everything goes to plan. Following those deadly riots that happened on Capitol Hill earlier this month. The inauguration ceremony itself is pretty straightforward, or it should be. The timings are very specific. The only really crucial time people need to know about is 12 p.m. my time, Eastern time, which is 5 p.m. UK time, because it's in the Constitution. It's at that point that Joe Biden becomes the next president of the US, and with him he takes his first ever female vice president, Kamala Harris, also the first black and South Asian female vice president as well. So it's a really historic moment that's happening. But President Trump is still in power for this morning, and he's issued a series of pardons, about 73 pardons. This is where convicted criminals and those facing trial are effectively cleared of their sentence. And on top of that list, it's Steve Bannon, his former chief strategist, a very controversial figure. He was facing fraud charges linked to a fundraising campaign for Donald Trump's US-Mexico wall, and it will just open up Donald Trump to more criticisms that he's been using his presidential power to help his friends. But it is a power that is available to him, and he will be using it like all presidents have in the final hours before he leaves the city.
Nomia, thank you very much for that. And we were speaking, weren't we, earlier to some other guests, and we were saying that, as Nomia was mentioning there, that's something that all presidents do, and probably the most famous one was back in the 1970s, where Gerald Ford was the man who pardoned Richard Nixon. So it's long been a tradition.
Also, just of course, there'll be full coverage of all of that on the BBC News channel throughout the day. Theresa May has accused Boris Johnson of abandoning the UK's moral leadership on the world stage.
The former Prime Minister said threatening to break international law during the Brexit negotiations and cutting overseas aid reduced the UK's global credibility.
Let's get more from our political correspondent, Adam Fleming, who joins us from Westminster. So just give us a bit of analysis on what she said. Morning.
Hello there. So this is quite a broad attack by Theresa May on unnamed politicians all around the world. She's criticising what she calls the strong man who put their own personalities ahead of the problems that they're meant to be solving together. And in terms of specific criticisms of the UK government, she says it was that threat to override part of the Brexit deal in the heat of the negotiations last year, and also the decision to reprioritise some spending away from foreign aid onto COVID spending at home that has affected the UK's reputation globally. She's made these criticisms before. Quite often she's getting a little dig in at the government when she stands up in the House of Commons, but packaging it all up in this way on this day is, in the words of one of her former very close advisors, quite punchy. The government instead would like to focus on this new relationship they're going to forge with the new president when he takes over in the next couple of hours, where they feel they've got quite a lot in common when it comes to working together on the world stage, fighting climate change, cooperating on global security. And that is what the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, wanted to focus on when she was speaking to Breakfast earlier.
The Prime Minister and President-elect Biden have already been in touch. They've already spoken. They've had discussions about, leading the world on many of the shared challenges that we all face. We face these as two strong, healthy democracies, two global leaders when it comes to international values, our place in the world, how we work bilaterally, multilateral institutions. That is going to continue. That'll go from strength to strength.
Although diplomats here in the UK think that Joe Biden will be concentrating on domestic issues for his first few months before he starts to think about the rest of the world. And on international aid, they say even with it being cut by a little bit, the UK is still a leader in helping poorer countries around the world.
Adam Fleming, thank you, as ever.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.